I don't own a laptop or any of that. So,
oh my goodness.
My easiest...
Not at all.
Not at all. Never.
Can you operate your phone?
I don't even know how to send a fax. I don't even know how to do a copy. So,
in this episode, you'll get to know the SalsaQueen, and you'll hear the story of how she went from living on food stamps and being barely able to provide for her family to building a thriving salsa business with products in over 1,500 stores in 30 American states. I'm Dave Crenshaw, and this is my Success Project. Welcome back, friends, to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project. This is the show where I'm looking for ways to teach my children how to be successful through the life stories of others, and you get to come along for the ride no matter what your age is. If it's your first time here and you're not familiar with me, I'm a best-selling author. I speak around the world to Fortune 500 companies, and I've reached millions of people and helped them be successful through my online courses. With this show, I was looking to create something a little different, something I could leave as a legacy to my children to help them learn universal principles of success. But I realized everybody else would want to learn these principles too. In these interviews, I speak to some of the most successful people I've met through my life's journey, especially people who have not just financial and career success, but have balanced, multifaceted success in many areas of their life. So as we go through this episode, I want you to look for something you can do to make my guest's success story a part of your success story. And today's guest, she's a lot of fun. The former Maharba Zapata, now legally known as SalsaQueen, immigrated to the U.S. at the age of 17 with her family. As a mom with 7 mouths to feed, she put her heart into the kitchen. Soon, she turned her favorite hobby of making delicious salsas into a thriving business. The SalsaQueen is a family business, which includes the help of her children. Today, her salsas are sold in nearly 1,500 stores across 30 states with over 30 employees. SalsaQueen, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here talking to you and sharing a little bit of my story. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, and you've got such a fascinating story and a fascinating business. And so what we want to do is just kind of start at the beginning and get to the point where you are now, which is a great deal of success. First question I always like to ask, where are you located right now? I talk to guests all around the world.
We are in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Yes, SalsaQueen is in Utah.
Yes, that's where I am. So every once in a while, I'll get to talk to someone who's a local. It's great to have you here. And
thank you.
Yes, Utah's beautiful right now.
Oh, it is.
And for people who won't be seeing this on audio, you have this beautiful display of your logo behind you, which is kind of fun for the holidays. We're actually recording this around Halloween time. So I'm assuming that's also very important to you because that's a part of your company identity.
100%. Is our culture, is Day of the Dead, which is coming up here very soon. And, it kind of tags along fine too with Halloween, but it is not so much Halloween, is more Day of the Dead, so we can go into that as you ask me questions or whatever, but
Sure.
It's very special time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let's see if we get to that later on in the discussion of the business and your branding, because a big part of your success is your branding. What I like to start with, though, I ask everyone this question, because part of the reason why I got excited about getting these stories is because I want to help my children. I have 3 children myself, and I wanted to get the stories of people who have remarkable career paths. And so because of the place they're at, I always like to ask the question, what did you want to be when you grew up? So where did you grow up before you immigrated to the United States?
I grew up in Mexico, Monterrey, which is like the 3rd biggest city in Mexico. And that's funny that you asked that question, right? And we wanna ask that to our kids all the time. What do you want to be when you grow up? Right? Like I still trying to find out what I want to be. My dreams were shattered when I found out that I cannot sing. I wanted to be a singer, but I suck.
Okay.
So I never had a chance of that, but I always liked the cameras. I always liked the action of cameras, but I never in my life imagined that started cooking at a very early age when I was 8 years old. It was gonna kind of be my path, of being here now creating salsas for everybody to enjoy. So yes, I had no idea what I wanted to be. And I just kind of let life, carry me through a lot of challenges, but I'm grateful for them because now I am here. So, yeah.
Talk to me about some of those challenges that you had at an early age. You immigrated to the United States at age 17. Was it difficult growing up in Monterrey prior to that point?
I had a pretty good life in Mexico. My dad had a really good job. We were not like rich, but we had everything we needed. But I always felt like, growing up in Monterrey is like probably 2 hours away from the United States, the border. So we got a lot of American influence, and I just dreamed about being here. I didn't know how that was going to happen, when it was going to happen, but I just felt in my heart that I was supposed to be here in America, and I always say it's a land of dreams, a land of opportunities. And I knew that I didn't know what kind of dreams I had, but I knew that they were going to be happening here.
So talk to me about that process that your family made to decide to come to the U.S., that experience of coming here. Can you just kind of share some insight of what that was like?
When we moved to America, we were actually illegal. We didn't speak the language. My dad had kind of retired very early, and we kind of ran out of money. So my uncle was here, invited us to move here. My dad moved here to America for probably a year and a half to save up money and live in some very not very fun conditions. I remember him calling from Utah to Mexico, and, I will be asking him, where do you live? What are you doing? He started going to school right away, and he had a job. So he was doing that full time. He was living in a trailer. And now that I can feel how cold it gets here in Utah, he used to live in this trailer, and it was freezing cold. He will say that every time when he woke up in the morning, like there was ice inside that trailer. So, my dad made a lot of sacrifices for us to have a better life and a better future. So after my dad being here for a year and a half, he went back to Mexico, brought us to America. And like I said, we were illegal. We didn't speak the language, but we were here together again as a family. And that was very important to us. Our lives totally changed. Like, people think that coming to America, you immediately are going to start making money and, wiping your sweat with $100 bills, which is absolutely not true. When you come to America, you really have to hustle, right?
Right.
So my mom started cleaning houses. I would stay home with my siblings, taking them to school, feeding them food when they got back from school. So that was kind of my role. When we came to America, obviously we didn't speak the language. So when I went to enroll myself in high school, they asked for some kind of paperwork, and I thought they were asking for legal papers. So I went back home and I'm like, they're asking for some kind of papers. And I said, I don't know. So I was never able to finish high school because of the language barrier.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So it was really hard, so I was kind of like a stay-home daughter, taking care of my
stay-at-home daughter.
Yeah. A sister, daughter, taking care of my siblings. And that's kind of what I did at the beginning while my dad was going to school and my mom was cleaning houses. And here and there, I will help her clean houses too.
No matter what your career is, your foundation of success begins with one thing: effective time management. And thanks to the generosity of Microsoft, you can get my entire course, Time Management Fundamentals, for free on LinkedIn Learning. Go to davegift.com to get your free access now. This is the course that millions around the world have used to become more productive and reduce stress. Everyone from Fortune 500 executives to freelancers to students. Now, it's the same coaching I've provided in person for tens of thousands of dollars per day, but you can get it for free on LinkedIn Learning. You don't need to provide anything to access it. No credit card, no email. Just go to davegift.com and start learning. Thank you so much, Microsoft and LinkedIn Learning, for your partnership. davegift.com. So I think when someone hears that they immigrated to the United States illegally, I know a lot of people's first question is, what was that like? What was crossing the border like for you?
It wasn't as traumatic as most people experience. We drove. We drove from Texas to Houston. And I remember there were a few stops in the way, but we have told immigration that we were just coming to vacation. I think somewhere in Texas. I mean, this is like over 30 years ago,
Okay.
so I don't remember very well.
Yeah, but it wasn't a traumatic.
No, it was not traumatic. It was scary, but it was not traumatic.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said something really interesting that I want to highlight, which is you said you have to hustle. You still have to hustle. And the phrase that came to my mind, but the hustle pays off bigger here, right?
100%.
So it wasn't that you weren't working hard in Mexico. You were. It's just that when you came to the United States, that hustle. And did you see that in both your parents, that hard work and that desire to succeed?
100%. You know, like my dad, he didn't just wanted to come here and just get a whatever job. He came here and he started going to school. Luckily for my dad, you know, we came in that era where they had the amnesty. So my dad and my siblings and my mom were able to get their citizenship, their residency pretty much immediately. I was already, when we came to America, I was close to 18 years old. So by the time my dad was able to get the amnesty, I was already 18 years old. So it didn't apply to me. So everybody was legal but me.
But you.
Yes.
But you did become a U.S. citizen. So what was that path like? Like, when did you start that and when did you actually get citizenship?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it took me forever. I've been married 3 times and I started my process to be not a citizen, but a resident. So with my first husband, you know, we got all the papers together and I became legal resident in the United States. But I'm talking like over 20 years ago.
And for those who are not familiar, what's the difference between a legal resident and a U.S. citizen? Just brief.
Well, you cannot vote.
Okay.
When you are a citizen versus a resident is you cannot vote. So that's one of the main things that, you know, you don't have. So I dragged that forever, being a resident. I dragged it forever. And, you know, we're in tough times right now, you know, like everything is very uncertain. So I was like, you know, it's time for me to do my citizenship. So 4 or 5 years ago, I finally decided. I studied the test, you know, all the questions, because there's 100 questions and they're only going to ask you 5. So you have to learn all of them to be able to nail, you know, whatever question they ask you. So that was a really fun experience. And that's when I actually changed my name.
Okay. Oh, you did it at the time of citizenship and you became SalsaQueen.
Yes. Yeah, SalsaQueen.
That's fun. That's fun. Okay, so I know that family is very important to you, and you mentioned how you were a stay-at-home daughter and helping take care of the family, but you also have many children. How many children do you have?
I had 8 kids.
Okay. And you say that past tense, so I know that you lost a child, and if you're comfortable with it, and you don't have to share all of it or none of it if you don't, but I'm just curious about the impact of losing that child had on your life.
Yeah, he was born and pretty much immediately, probably 2 months into he was born, they diagnosed him with leukemia. And it was a very, very hard journey, to say. We were actually the first ones in the hospital, a primary children's hospital here, that we used the bone marrow unit. It was brand new. I was my son's donor for the bone marrow. So I was the first adult at Primary Children's Hospital. So he fought through 19 months of pain and suffering. I'm still trying to find, they say that everything has a reason, right? There's always a reason for things happening. And sadly, I'm still trying to find the answer of why that happened. I know probably a lot of people have an answer for it, but I'm trying to find my own. And I'm still on the journey of that, trying to heal. When he passed away, we didn't speak the language. So when he passed away, my whole family was just left to heal on your own. We didn't have any support system. We didn't have therapists. We didn't have anything. He just passed away and that was it. So it's still hard to process that a lot, I think, for the whole family. That's something that we don't talk very much about within the family. So I know it's still a very painful memory.
Yeah. I appreciate you being willing to share that with us. I'm glad you did, because I really want to highlight that when someone is successful, they also have to go through adversity. There's always going to be something that is perhaps even a terrible challenge, not just difficult, but terrible. And yet you have found a way to persevere and be successful. And to me, the success is more meaningful because you did that. And I think there are people listening to this who they're going through something terrible right now and something very difficult. And I want them to see your example of being able to come through the other side and say, you know what? Yes, we're not going to diminish what happened, but we can still find a path forward and find happiness and find joy, which my perception is you have found that in spite of what occurred.
Well, I always say, God took one from me, but he gave me 7 more. So how can I complain, right?
That was your first child.
That was my first child. So,
okay.
When people say, I'm sorry about your loss, I said, thank you so much. But I cannot complain because God has been very, very generous with me. So, I always try to focus on the good part of life versus the sad. And like you said, we always learn from the bad experiences, from the sad experiences. And I have learned a lot through my journey of being a businesswoman. But with that, something so personal, I'm still trying to find that journey.
Yeah. You mentioned something interesting in that story, which was that you didn't feel like you had much or any of a support group because you didn't speak English. So where did you make the decision? Because that's hard for people to do. You've been speaking another language your whole life. And I think some people will go to a foreign country, not just in the United States, they'll go to a foreign country and not learn the local language. So at what point did you say, enough, I am going to learn English? And what led to that decision?
Well, my parents are very LDS. They're very Mormon. So when we moved to America, we were still going to a Spanish-speaking chapel. And that was very hard because, all our friends were Latinos, from everywhere. So, but I really wanted to speak the language. Since I was little, I used to play with my friends about speaking English. We were just like, or whatever we was saying.
You were just making up nonsense?
Yes.
I would have loved to have got a recording of hearing that. That would have been highly entertaining.
I could probably still do it.
Oh, let's hear it. Do it. I want to hear your fake English.
We're like, oh,
yeah. What's
whatever, we just were like making noises.
That's great. So at what point, though, did it turn from wanting to speak it to actually doing the work and the effort so that you became comfortable with it?
Okay. So it was actually until my baby was admitted into Primary Children's Hospital, and that was my primary home. We lived there for 19 months. We would go home for a little bit and then come back to the hospital. Probably in 19 months that he was at the hospital, maybe a total of a month we were home. But primary children was our primary residency per se. And that's where I actually learned to speak English out of necessity, out of love, out of pain, out of suffering. I had to get out of my comfort zone and just be brave and try to learn the language in order of me to be able to help my son. And pretty soon, since I lived at the hospital, everybody knew me. And it was actually pretty awesome because when there were families that they didn't speak the language, they will call me on that intercom and say, Marva, if you can please come to room so and so. So I wasn't only then helping myself and my child, but I was also helping other families. So that was very fulfilling for me to be able to do something and to be able to give back.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so you started your business in 2014. What were you doing for work prior to that?
Well, actually, that's a really good question. I had always been a stay-at-home mom since my first marriage because I had so many kids. So since I didn't have a college degree or a high school diploma or any work experience, when I became a single mother again for the second time, I was living out of food stamps, Medicaid. The church was helping me. So I am so grateful for all those programs and all that help that I was able to get. But that wasn't a lifestyle I wanted to live. That wasn't a lifestyle that I wanted to show my kids. Even though I was grateful, I was still embarrassed about my living conditions. So when the opportunity came to me and somebody, because nobody had ever believed in me, my mom was very mentally and physically abusive. She has her motives. I don't want to type badly on her, it's just kind of the culture in Mexico too. And so I had very low self-esteem and I didn't believe that I could do something. I always thought that God forgave to give me a talent. I thought I didn't have any talents and I was like, well, I guess my talent is to have kids. And I was okay with that at that point. But when this man, Jim, now my husband, came into my life and he was the first person and only person that had ever asked me, what would you like to do? And I was like, what would I like to do? I had no idea what I wanted to do. Because I thought I had no talents or anything. So he shared an idea with me and I thought to myself, I'll do anything. What do I have to lose?
Was Jim entrepreneurial? Is he entrepreneurial? Is that where the idea came from?
Big time.
Okay.
He is the most entrepreneurial person I have ever met in my life. He's always thinking about ideas, how to improve this, how to do this. I mean, he is just amazing. So I got very lucky to have met him at a very rough point in my life. Like it was just a blessing from God. I honestly believe that. And so when he presented this opportunity, I thought I'll do anything. And it was pastries. It was European pastries and gelato, kind of like a coffee shop. And I was like, I'll do anything. So I started playing with recipes. And, at the end of the day, I thought to myself, I'm not European. This is not what I do. I love cooking. That's my passion. I've been cooking since I was 8 years old. And so I said to Jim, I want to make salsas. I asked him that and he probably thought, yeah, you and how many more? So that's kind of where the craziness began. I said, I want to make salsas. I want to do something that speaks my language, my culture, and that I can feel good about selling.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So did you actually try to have a business with these European pastries? Was that like an attempted business that didn't succeed?
It was an attempted business that it never went farther because I wanted to stay true to myself. So before I even took it farther, I was like, I can't. I love my culture. I love my food. And this is what I do. In Mexico, when we show love, we show it through food. So I love people and I love food. So what a better way for me to be able to create, something that is spoke all about me, my love to people through food. So it was just a perfect fit.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful principle, is knowing yourself and doing something that's true to yourself and who you are. I wanted to ask that question about the European business because a mentor taught me this, SalsaQueen, which is, what is the secret to success in entrepreneurship? Make sure it's your second time. And the implication there is that every successful entrepreneur had at least one failed venture prior to locking into the thing that actually made them successful. So it sounds like that was it. Or was there another prior business that you attempted that didn't work out?
No, that was it.
Okay.
My key for success, in my view, is that I didn't have a plan B. I only had a plan A. And I know a lot of people have a plan B, and that's great. You should. But I didn't have that. It wasn't like, well, if plan A doesn't work, then I can go back to accounting or being a nurse or whatever that was. I didn't have that. I didn't have anything to fall back into. So I only had a plan A, and I was going to make it happen because it had to happen. Otherwise, what else was I going to do?
Yeah, I love that concept of not having a plan B, because all too often we don't fully commit to something. And I'm a big believer in focus. I mean, I wrote a book called The Focused Business, and that is part of it. The other thing is too, it sounds like when things started to take off with SalsaQueen, did you attempt to try any other business, or were you just drilling down on just this one concept with it?
Well, I didn't know much of anything, which is a good thing. Otherwise, I don't know if I would have done it. But
yes.
Yes.
There's a lot to be said for energy and ignorance when it comes to
100%
starting a business. Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing all along. I'm still have no idea what I'm doing. So, that makes you keep going because you have no idea what's going to happen,
Right.
I just have to say that part of my success was that I'm very fearless. I don't take a no for an answer. And every door that has opened to me, I go right through it. I don't knock on the door. All the doors are open for all of us. And it's up to us if we want to walk through that door or we want to stay behind. And I chose to walk through every open door that it was open for me. And definitely, like they say that ignorance is a bliss, right? And since you don't know anything, you just keep on going because you don't know what kind of challenges you're going to face until you're there. And then you just have to nail it. And sometimes you screw it up, sometimes you don't, but it's a learning experience. And I wouldn't change absolutely anything that I have gone through because I wouldn't be where I'm at and I wouldn't be who I am.
Let's get specific with that. Talk to me about some of the no's that you did get early on, some of the rejections that came your way. Let's talk about the adversity that got you to this point.
Yeah, I think at the beginning, I didn't see much of it other than I didn't know what I was doing, so I had to learn as I went, I didn't know how fragile salsas are because I had no idea about shelf life, about preservatives, about any of that. I was just making the same salsas that I was making at the farmer's market that I could sell right there on the spot. But I didn't understand that to be able to get into a store is a whole different monster,
Oh, yeah. That's a very difficult process to get your product onto a store shelf.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what that process is like? Because people who have not tried to do it don't comprehend how hard that is.
Yeah.
What did you have to do?
I mean, especially when you have a very perishable item, they're fresh salsas. Our theme, proud is that we don't put any preservatives or fillers in it. So it is pure joy. You read some of our ingredients on the salsas and you're like, how did they do this? How did they come up with these flavors? And the ingredients are so simple. But for example, I was at a store, my first store, and I was doing everything. I was making the salsas. My kids were helping me wherever they could. And it's a local store in Park City. It's called The Market. I don't know if you've been there.
Okay.
But that was my first store.
How did you get them to put it on the shelf for the first time?
I had some friends that they did an intro. So then I went there and I introduced my salsas. They loved it. And they're like, yeah, welcome to the store. So I was very happy about that. But I didn't know what kind of challenges I was going to face. So I was actually kicked out of that store after a year because I had a mango pineapple salsa that it wasn't cooked. It was fresh. So it was spoiling really fast. So they said, you know what? We're going to kick you out because this is not working out. And I think they charged me $600. But back then, for me, $600 was like everything.
Yeah.
So I had to remake the product, bring it back, and try to sell it to make up for that expired product that we lost. So they actually kicked me out of the store. I was very sad. But I had gone 4 times to 5 times a week to sample my salsa. So everybody there knew me, they loved me and everything. So thank goodness a lot of my clients were like, where is SalsaQueen? Where is SalsaQueen? Where is, they miss me. So they call me and they're like, okay, everybody's asking for you. We're going to bring you back, but you have to do something with this salsa in particular because, it was just going to expire a lot. So that was kind of my first big one. But, now that we're bigger, it has been very hard to work in an environment of very prepared people. They come to college, they have degrees, they have masters, they have all of that, something that I don't have.
Right.
And I have gotten treated very, very bad in my own workspace with a lot of the people that I had previously worked with. I actually had a partner that I had to bring in because I was doing everything by myself and I was killing myself. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So we brought in a partner and we just couldn't see eye to eye. We worked together probably for 3 years and it was the hardest times of my life as a business owner. It was a lot of suffering, a lot of tears, a lot of anger and frustration.
Yeah. I want to talk about that for just a second because having a partner is something. So my background, SalsaQueen, is in coaching small businesses. That's where I began, was coaching entrepreneurs. And a pattern that I would see regularly is that partnerships rarely work. Can they? Yes, I've seen them work. Talk to me about what was wrong. Rather than talking about the person, let's talk about the structure. How were things structured when you brought on that partner? How was communication taking place that made it so that it did not work?
I think also it was my baby, so we meant a lot to me. For him, there were more numbers. To me, it was more than numbers. It was my passion. It was my love. It was my care of quality. And so we just couldn't see eye to eye in so many things. So that was very, very challenging experience. I suffered a lot, but I learned a lot too. A lot. So that's why I'm saying, out of everything that it has happened to me, I have no regrets because even though they were very painful, sometimes the most painful experiences are the ones that they help you to grow and be a better person.
Absolutely. So you do not have a partner now, is that correct, in the business?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. We backed him out not long ago. I'm thankful for him for taking us to the next level and, for doing what he did. I'm grateful for that, but it was time to move on and focus on my goals, my vision, and not just mine, but everybody in our team has the same vision now. We have an amazing team. Jim, my husband, quit his job. So I tell him now that instead of counting money, because he used to work at a bank, now he's counting tomatoes. So,
That's a great point. Yeah. There's also part of this story that I want to highlight too, which is there comes a point in the growth of a business where the entrepreneur can kind of get in their own way because you're so passionate, because you love things so much. sometimes you do need to bring in people who are more expert in the areas that you're not and free you from having your hands in every little thing, which is great in the beginning, but not so great when, like you're saying, you've expanded to 30 states and you've got 30 employees. We need to start having some bigger systems and structures rather than everything being held together by the entrepreneur. Would you agree with that perspective?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, there's so many things that I don't know. I don't even know on a computer. I don't know a laptop or any of that. So,
oh my goodness.
My easiest.
Not at all.
Not at all. Never.
Can you operate your phone?
I don't even know how to send a fax. I don't even know how to do a copy. So,
okay.
I think I have a very strong personality, but I have learned to trust people a lot to be able to grow.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that I don't know and I should learn 100%. But, I outsource everything. Whatever I don't know, I just outsource it to the point where, yes, I have an office here, but I'm never here. I work just out of my phone. I have my iPhone and that's what I do. But I have a personal assistant. I have, we're looking for a social media person. But one of the biggest assets that I have acquired in the company is Jim. Like, to be able to have Jim in the company has definitely helped us grow because his vision doesn't stop anywhere. Like, I don't even have words to explain, like, how he thinks. So me being able to trust him 100% has given us the opportunity to grow as much as we have. If I didn't have that trust on my employees, my husband, and everybody that works here, we will still probably be doing farmers markets and we wouldn't be growing. So it gets to a point where I had to stop being so dramatic, so Latina dramatic, so opera, and just allow myself to have other people help me.
Yes.
And train them in a manner that you can keep trusting them,
Let's highlight something there, which is really important, which is working with family. And husband and wife teams also is, I've seen it happen successfully several times, but I've seen it more often not work well.
Yeah.
How do you, and maybe you're not, we'll find out, but how do you maintain balance of being able to turn off business and turn on a personal relationship? Are you able to create that boundary between you and Jim?
Actually, Jim is behind the camera and he's laughing about it.
Maybe we should, Jim, if you want to come in and say a word about this, I'd love to get your perspective.
Because we have very different opinions. To me, it's like, I am so happy Jim works with me and we work so perfectly together. That's my reality. Let's listen to Jim's reality.
Yes, step. Yeah.
I think the question was, how do you separate the two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And generally speaking,
have a seat, Jim, and get a little closer to the mic here for a second.
I mean, generally what we try to do is avoid talking about it at home.
Good.
But the problem is when she doesn't come in for an extended period of time, the things just kind of build up. And sometimes they sneak out and I say, hey, we need to really talk about this.
Yeah.
But that's what we try to do is have some sort of a break. Because otherwise, we could be talking business 24/7. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on or so many issues. It's always something.
It is very hard and we need to be very aware of it as a couple. And sometimes we're out for dinner or we're on vacation. And, of course, work is always in our heads. Like 100% is always there. We're on a date, we're on vacations, we're in the hot tub, we're in the pool. We're always thinking about work. So it's hard not to communicate that. But we're really good at, if I'm going for it, he's like, okay, let's stop. Or if he's going about it, I'm like, okay, let's stop. And just always trying to be very mindful about, our conversations and boundaries.
That's great. I'm going to send you to a gift of some of my books that apply to this. I'm going to give you, really, there are 3 books that apply to this. The Myth of Multitasking, The Focus Business, and The Power of Having Fun. And all of those books came out of my work with entrepreneurs, with small businesses. And it deals with that importance of creating that boundary. And the suggestion that I would give you is to create a clear structure. Say, here's the hour at which we are no longer permitted to talk about business. Here is the time when we're going to schedule and say, all right, every Friday or at 3:00, and I'm just throwing out a date, this is the time that we're going to focus on, talk about that. And what it does is it gives you permission to work on the business together, but it also gives you permission to not do it. And when I've helped couples do that, it really creates a much healthier business and relationship dynamic.
I'm excited to read that book. Maybe we can read it together.
Yes, exactly. There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Talk to me also about working with the rest of your family. So you have 7 children. The oldest and the youngest, what are the ages right now for you?
The youngest is 13 and the oldest is 28.
Okay, so they're all old enough to contribute to the business in some way.
Yes.
Talk to me about how that works. How involved are they? Are all the children doing something? Some of them? What's that like?
Well, right here, come here, Leah.
We're putting people on the spot.
She's actually my daughter. She's my oldest daughter.
Hello. She's been coming in and out of frame with the camera and filming this, which, by the way, I want to highlight just for people who are listening, that's really great that you're doing that. The one thing I know about you, SalsaQueen, and watching what you're doing, you're an expert at promotion. And you're getting these clips to put up on social media. So now we're going to see video of you being on the podcast,
Correct.
Which, by the way, is great for me because you're going to tag me in it and I'll get a little bit from that.
Yes.
But so, Leah, is that something that you're excited about, is doing social media and putting that kind of stuff up?
I mean, I'm always excited to help her.
Okay.
And just wherever she needs help, I'll always be there for her.
Yeah.
Do you ever run into situations where it's awkward or difficult because you're working with your mom?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes we're not getting along the best, or I do something and I mean, just like that mother-daughter relationship can be always hard sometimes.
Right. And when you've got like 2 sides of the coin at the same time, I know sometimes that can make things complex or difficult. Either one of you can answer this. What do you do to kind of reset the relationship when that kind of intermingled complexity happens?
Well, it's been hard. Like sometimes, like for a while, she was working as a front desk office manager. And if I would come and I'll be like, hey, this needs to be clean, this needs to be that, she will get very upset that I'm bossing her around. I'm like, but you're getting paid for this. Like at home, you can give me every attitude you want. But here, I'm your boss too. So it was very hard for you to kind of separate that. Huh?
Yeah, it was hard for me to separate it. But I think I've changed my mindset a lot more recently. It is easier for me to separate work from home.
Yeah. Well, I imagine, one of the easiest things is just to say, when I step through these doors, I'm an employee, right? When I step out of these doors, I'm a daughter. Does that work for you?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I have to do.
Okay.
That's a good idea. Yeah. I don't have a problem. Believe me, I can boss around everybody.
I'm shocked by that statement. I would never guess that about you. No,
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
thank you for sharing that perspective. Is it an issue with all of your children where you're dealing with that and trying to create that balance? Because that is really hard to have family members and work with family members. Where I've seen people do it successfully is where maybe the responsibility of being the boss is actually someone else in the company rather than the parent. Do you have any of that going on where someone else is the manager of them and you're insulated from it? Or is it still a direct relationship?
Yeah, it has happened. We have had pretty much all of my kids kind of circled through SalsaQueen, and unfortunately some have worked better than others. But it is very hard to work with family, very hard, because it is just natural for them to feel a little bit more entitled, more like we're special, so we get special treatment and stuff like that. And I have fired some of my kids a few times because, I said, this is a workplace. Home is over there. This is work, and these are my expectations. And if you're not helping the business to grow, then I cannot have you here, because this is not just about me. This is about other employees that I have here. That's how they feed their families. That's how they pay rent. That's how they pay their bills and everything. So this business is not any longer about just me. This is about a lot of families that are counting on us. So if anyone, my kids or anyone, is not helping us to grow, then it's not the time, or it's not the place, or, but I treat everybody equally.
I endorse everything that you just said right there. In the focus business, there's a concept that I call the bear. And the bear is someone who works in the business. They've got strengths, but maybe they do feel a little too comfortable, a little too familiar. And they're also making messes in addition to that. And what you said is exactly right. You have to let go of the bear for the benefit of everyone else. And sometimes it's also to the benefit of that person, right? To let them have the freedom to go do something else that's probably a better fit for them. So I think it's a situation where firing is actually a positive thing in the long run for everybody.
Yeah, I usually let Jim do the firing.
All right. Well, there's that division of labor. Yeah. So we unfortunately need to start wrapping things up.
But why?
Well, somebody's got to make the salsa, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, I would have people like that. Just kidding.
That's true. They're doing it.
Now.
Yeah. Of course, I'm joking. I know you personally don't make the salsa.
Yeah.
But I always like to wrap up with this question, especially with an entrepreneur, which is, where do you see things over the next 5 years? Where do you want to be? What's your aspiration for that?
Oh my gosh, there's so many stores that we haven't targeted yet. And, my goal is for everybody to have a piece of my culture, my flavors in their home. I know that the Mexican culture especially is very big in the United States. And,
yes,
that's how I want to show my love to everybody, so we definitely want to grow. We want to expand into more states. And now with our freeze-dry salsa, this is a new concept that Jim...
She's holding it up on the camera, by the way, for those who are not watching this.
Yeah, SalsaQueen, go to our website, SalsaQueen.com. But Jim came up with this concept. It's freeze-dry salsa, and this is amazing. We're going to get some to you. But
please,
you just add water. It's the same recipes, our fresh salsas. We send them here in Utah to freeze dry, package them, and send them off. So we are not just in the United States anymore. We have the ability to take SalsaQueen worldwide with the freeze dry salsas. So, it's kind of, let's share the love through food and through some SalsaQueen spicy salsa.
Yeah.
And I want this to be a staple. I want this to be a Utah staple, that when people, they come to Utah, they have a polo burger, they have, these things. Well, you come to Utah to try the best salsa you're ever going to have at a store. And that is SalsaQueen.
I love the vision behind that. I just want to highlight for people is that you do have a very clear vision and aspirations. But more importantly than that, because lots of people have vision, SalsaQueen, right? I've seen that over and over. They've got this great idea.
Yeah.
More importantly, you have a system and you have a structure and you have employees who are highly talented that enable you to create that vision.
Yes.
And I know that path had some winding roads to get where you're at right now, but you now have the entrepreneurial skills that you didn't have 15 years ago or however long ago, right?
And that believe in myself. I didn't believe in myself, and that stopped me from doing great things, but it's never too late, and it just took one person to believe in me so I could start believing in myself. And it is amazing the power of that, because that can take you anywhere you want to go, anywhere. In our workspace, we love to believe in people that work with us. So we like to hire in with them. And we have several people that they've been with us for 5 years. And in particular, there's this girl from Mexico too. And she, we offer her a position as a manager, and she kept saying, no, I'm stupid. I'm dumb. I'm not capable. I'm not smart enough to take that role. So I pulled her into my office and I said, I know exactly how you feel because I've been there and I still struggle sometimes, but I've been there. But look at me now. I was able to break through those lies that I believe so strongly about me. And look where I'm at now. In Mexico, we have a say that is, everybody says, sí se puede. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. If I did it with no school diploma, with, being dyslexic, not speaking the language perfectly, with no experience to be an entrepreneur, if I did all those things with 7 kids, anybody else can do it. You just want to do it that bad, and like I said, I came to this country with a lot of dreams and a lot of energy to be successful. And if you're in this country and you're not successful on whatever it is that you want to do, it's because you don't want to, because the opportunity is here and it is everywhere. So I want to leave everybody with that yes, you can. Sí se puede.
I love it. And we're going to flip the order of what I do here, which is at the end, I always summarize some action steps, and usually I start and then I finish with you. We're going to start with you. No, it's fantastic. You got the vision and you were just ahead of schedule. So that's wonderful. So we're going to highlight, and I'll just explain. My belief is it's not about someone just listening to your story, SalsaQueen, and say, that was great knowledge. I want someone to take a specific action. I want them to do something today, this week, so that they make your success story a part of their success story. So the first one is from SalsaQueen herself, which is believe in yourself. And I would say, listen to people who build you up and believe in you, right? Jim was a turning point, his influence in your life and him believing in you and asking you, what do you want? That helped. So I think that's one of the principles, is to believe in yourself and listen to people who believe in you. And if that's not happening in your life, start to work on that. A second principle that I would add, and it sounds similar, but it is different, which is to know yourself and don't try to be something that you're not, right? That first business idea of let's do European pastries. Sure, it's a great business idea, but it doesn't tap into who you are at your core. And anyone listening to this, you don't have to be an entrepreneur to do that. You can, in your job, recognize what you do great and the kind of things that you're interested in and feed those interests. So get to know yourself. You might take my Discovering Your Strengths course on LinkedIn Learning to help with that. That's another great principle. And then one more that I want to highlight is to learn to delegate. Learn to hire great people. In the beginning, SalsaQueen, you were yes, it was necessary to start the business, but you were doing so much on your own that it was almost impossible to scale what you were doing, right?
Correct.
And so someone listening to this, I would say, learn how to outsource. She used that word, learn how to outsource, learn how to hire people. And someone listening to this may say, well, Dave, I'm not a business owner. I can't hire people. And I would say, you do it all the time. You hire someone to make you a burger. When you walk into McDonald's, you hire SalsaQueen to make you salsa because she does it best. So you use her instead. There are lots of little things that anyone is doing in their day, and you can say, how can I get someone else to do this for me so that I can focus on what I do best and what I do great? So look for those opportunities. Those are 3 action items. Would you add any additional one, something simple that someone can do this week to make your success story their success story?
Write down your goals. Write down goals. It doesn't have to be like, this year, weekly.
Yes.
Today, I'm going to get up at this time and I'm going to go to the gym. Or this day, I'm going to try to eat healthier. Or this week, I'm going to start reading a book. Whatever it is, write a few goals that are very doable at a short term that you can start doing. That way, you can target those goals, and then you can start doing bigger ones because you're starting to believe that you can target those little ones. And once you do that, you can dream bigger. So setting goals is very, very important.
Yes. And setting small bite-sized goals and accomplishing those, that's the part of it that I really like about it. Something that you can do. Thank you for this interview. I thought this was going to be a lot of fun, and it absolutely was a lot of fun. It was a pleasure to get to know you, SalsaQueen. And maybe we can meet in person at some point here in Salt Lake City. Wonderful to get to know you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity to let me share my story and to empower others, whatever their journey is, whatever their love is, their passion, and go for them.
Yeah.
Life is short. Let's enjoy it.
Great advice. Thank you for being on the show, and thank you who have been listening. Thank you for spending the time to hear this story. Remember, it's not so much about the knowledge that you heard or the entertainment that you got from listening to SalsaQueen's story. It's about the action that you take. So do one thing today, do one thing this week, and you'll make her success story a part of your success story. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project, hosted by my dad, Dave Crenshaw, and produced by Invaluable Incorporated. Research and assistant production by Victoria Bedez. Sound editing by Mark Lamerjazy. Voiceover by me, Darcy Crenshaw. And the music is by Ryan Brady via Pond 5 licensing. Please subscribe to the Dave Crenshaw Success Project on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to get your podcasts. If you have a suggestion for someone my dad might like to interview, please send it to guests@davecrenshaw.com. And please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. See you next time.